The phone call came 3 days before my brother Brandon's engagement party. Dad's voice was casual, almost cheerful. "It's just a small reunion, Felix. Family only. You understand." I stood there in my Denver apartment, phone pressed to my ear, completely silent. I helped Brandon through rehab 2 years ago. I co-signed his apartment lease when no one else would. I even introduced Brandon to his fiancée, Amanda, at my own birthday party last year. After Dad hung up, I stared at the engagement invitation sitting on my kitchen counter, the one delivered to my neighbor by mistake. My name wasn't on it. That evening, I sat alone on my couch, scrolling through old text messages from Brandon. There were dozens of them, spanning the last 2 years. "Thanks for everything, bro. Couldn't have done this without you. You saved my life." I remembered sitting in that rehab facility visiting room every Sunday for 3 months while Brandon got clean. I remembered the night he showed up at my door at 2 a.m, shaking and desperate, begging for help. I remembered holding him while he cried about how Dad had given up on him. I considered calling Mom. My finger hovered over her contact. But something stopped me. If she wanted me there, wouldn't she have said something already? Wouldn't someone have mentioned it? I set the phone down and rubbed my face. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe the invitation really did just get lost in the mail. I looked at my calendar. This weekend was my long-planned ski trip to Breckenridge with Marcus, my college roommate, and his cousin Josh. I'd booked it months ago, back when I still thought I'd be celebrating my brother's engagement instead of avoiding it. The timing felt like fate now. I could either sit home feeling sorry for myself, or I could go enjoy the mountains with people who actually wanted me around. By Thursday morning, I'd made my decision. I packed my ski gear, loaded up my car, and told myself I was taking the high road. Maybe the family had their reasons for the small gathering. Maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe Brandon wanted something intimate. I could respect that, even if it stung. Friday afternoon, Marcus picked me up, and we drove the 2 hours to Breckenridge, Josh following in his own car. The mountain air hit me as soon as we arrived, crisp and clean, washing away some of the tension I'd been carrying all week. We checked into our lodge, a cozy place with timber beams and a stone fireplace. That night, we grabbed dinner at a local pub, and I managed to go several hours without thinking about Brandon's party happening the next day without me. Saturday morning came with perfect conditions. Fresh powder had fallen overnight, and the sky was that brilliant Colorado blue that makes you forget all your problems. We hit the slopes early, carving down runs with names like Devil's Crotch and Psychopath. The speed, the cold air burning my lungs, the pure focus required to navigate the mountain, it all felt like medicine. Around noon, we stopped at a mid-mountain lodge for lunch. The place was packed with skiers, everyone ruddy-cheeked and happy. We grabbed a table on the outdoor deck, the sun warm despite the snow everywhere. Marcus ordered a round of beers while Josh studied the trail map, planning our afternoon route. That's when Marcus insisted on a group photo. "Come on, man," he said, grinning. "We need proof we actually did this." He waved over another skier to take our picture. The three of us lined up against the deck railing, the stunning mountain vista stretching behind us, peaks and pine trees and that impossibly blue sky. I smiled for real. These guys, they showed up. They didn't need a reason or an excuse. I posted the photo to Instagram, adding a caption that felt true. "Sometimes the best family is the one you choose. Grateful for these guys." It was pointed, maybe, but not aggressive. I was hurt, but I was trying to move forward. 20 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Once. Twice. Then it didn't stop. I pulled it out, frowning at the screen. 7 missed calls from Dad, 12 texts from Mom, 4 from Brandon, 3 from Aunt Patricia, 2 from Uncle Raymond. Even my cousin Jessica was calling. My stomach dropped. Something was terribly wrong. Someone must have died. But as I scrolled through the messages, I realized they weren't sad. They were panicked, furious, demanding. "Take that down now." Dad had written in all caps, "Felix, what are you doing? Call me immediately," from Mom. "You're going to ruin everything, you selfish piece of garbage," Brandon had sent, his words dripping with venom. I stared at my phone, completely confused. Marcus and Josh were watching me, concern on their faces. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. I had no idea how to answer. It was just a ski photo. Just me and two friends on a mountain. What could possibly be wrong with that? My hands shaking slightly, I called Dad back. He answered on the first ring, his voice so loud and angry I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He was almost incoherent, words tumbling over each other. You know exactly what you're doing. How did you find out? Felix, I swear to God, if you don't take that down right now. I cut him off. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just skiing with Marcus and Josh. What's going on? That lodge, he hissed. That mountain. You did this on purpose. Don't play dumb with me. Then he hung up. I sat there, the phone still in my hand, my lunch forgotten. Marcus leaned forward. Dude, what's happening? I couldn't answer. Instead, I opened Instagram and zoomed in on the photo I'd posted. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Just the three of us, mountains, snow, but then I looked closer at the lodge window behind us. There was a banner, partially visible through the glass. I zoomed in further, my heart starting to pound. The banner read, Congratulations Brandon and Amanda, Grand Vista Resort. Grand Vista Resort, the family resort. The one in the mountains 2 hours west of Denver. The one my grandfather built in the 1970s. The one that supposedly burned down 3 years ago in a wildfire. The one they collected $2.3 million in insurance money for. The resort that was supposed to be nothing but ashes and memories. But it was clearly standing. Renovated. Beautiful. Hosting my brother's engagement party. The lodge we were sitting in was part of Grand Vista. I hadn't even realized it when we arrived. The resort had changed names after Grandpa died, or at least I thought it had. But this was it. This was the place, and it wasn't destroyed at all. My blood ran cold, as understanding crashed over me. My family wasn't angry that I wasn't invited to the party. They were terrified that I'd discovered where the party actually was. At a resort that, according to insurance documents and official records, didn't exist anymore. I looked up at Marcus, my voice barely working. I think I just accidentally exposed an insurance fraud. I barely slept that night. Back in our lodge room, I sat with my laptop, diving into everything I could find about the Grand Vista fire. The news articles from 3 years ago painted a dramatic picture. Wildfire sweeps through mountain resort. Grand Vista, beloved family landmark, destroyed. Only memories remain. The articles quoted my father, grief-stricken, talking about his father's legacy going up in smoke. But I'd been there when those interviews happened. I remembered Dad's performance, the catch in his voice, the way he dabbed at his eyes. At the time, I'd thought he was genuinely heartbroken. Now I wondered if he was just a better actor than I'd given him credit for. I found the insurance claim documents next. They were public record, filed with the county. Total loss. Complete destruction, estimated damages. $2.3 million. And there, on page 7, was my signature. Character witness, the document said. Felix Warren confirms complete destruction of property. I stared at that signature. I'd signed this? I pulled up my calendar from 3 years ago, scrolling back to the date on the document. August 14th. I'd been in Seattle that week for a work conference. I remembered because it was the same week as the fire, and I'd tried to fly home early but couldn't get a flight. I never saw the destroyed resort. I never witnessed anything. But someone had used my signature anyway. My hands were shaking as I dug deeper. Grand Vista Resort was the family legacy. Grandpa built it in 1976, back when this area was barely developed. He'd poured everything into it. His savings, his dreams, his sweat. The resort was modest, but beloved. A place where families came back year after year. When Grandpa died 5 years ago, he left it equally to Dad and Uncle Raymond. And he'd promised me a stake. When you turn 30, Felix, he'd said, holding my hand in the hospital, those last days, you'll be brought in as a partner. You've got good business sense. You'll keep them honest. He'd winked at that last part, and I'd laughed, thinking he was joking. I turned 32 years ago. I'd asked Dad about the partnership. He said there was paperwork to sort out. Complications with the estate, nothing to worry about. Be patient. So I'd been patient. And now here I was, 32, with no stake in anything. I searched county property records next, a public database that showed ownership transfers. And there it was, Grand Vista Resort, LLC. Current owners, Thomas Warren, my father. Victor Shepard, Amanda's father. And Brandon Warren, my brother. Brandon was listed as an owner. Brandon, who 18 months ago was living on my couch, unemployed, fresh out of rehab, barely functional. Brandon, who I'd fed and supported and rebuilt from nothing. Brandon now owned a piece of the family legacy I'd been promised. The ownership transfer was dated 8 months ago, right around when Brandon and Amanda started getting serious. I searched for Victor Shepard next. He was a real estate developer, successful, with projects all over Colorado. His company, Shepard Development Group, specialized in luxury properties and resort communities. I worked for a subsidiary of Shepard Development, had for 4 years. I was their top project manager. I'd even gotten Brandon a job there briefly, though he'd quit after 2 months. I found LLC documents showing complex ownership structures. Victor's company had invested heavily in Grand Vista's renovation. The numbers were staggering, millions of dollars, and the timeline was clear. The renovation started 2 years ago, just a year after the fire, which meant the resort had never been fully destroyed. Maybe there was damage, but nothing like the total loss they'd claimed. They'd taken the insurance money and used it to fund a partial renovation. Then they'd brought in Victor's money to complete it, making him a partner. And they'd sealed the deal by arranging Brandon's engagement to Amanda. I felt sick, but there was more. I found documents with my signature on property transfers, agreements to sell my future inheritance share, waivers of interest in the family business. The signatures looked perfect, identical to my real signature. But the dates were all wrong. One was notarized on March 3rd, 2 years ago. I pulled up my calendar. March 3rd, 2 years ago, I was in the hospital with appendicitis. I had surgery that day. I still had the medical records, the hospital bracelet, everything. I couldn't have been in a notary's office signing documents. I was under anesthesia. Someone had forged my signature. And not just once, multiple times. They'd systematically erased me from the family business, making it look like I'd agreed to it all. The full picture came together slowly, horribly. Dad had embezzled from family accounts before I turned 30. He needed to cover it up before I gained access. So he arranged the fire, claimed total loss, collected insurance money. That bought him time. Then he renovated quietly, brought in Victor as a partner for legitimacy and additional capital. He bought out Uncle Raymond, probably with a cut of the insurance money. He brought Brandon in as his successor, and he arranged Brandon's engagement to Amanda to seal the business merger with Victor. I was the loose end. The one who might ask questions, might notice discrepancies. So they forged documents to make it look like I'd voluntarily given up my claim. They erased me legally before erasing me from the family. And my accidental Instagram post threatened to expose the entire scheme. I looked at the clock. It was 4 a.m. Marcus was asleep in the other bed. I sat in the darkness, my laptop screen the only light, and realized I was holding proof of fraud. But what could I do with it? I had screenshots and downloaded documents, but I wasn't a lawyer. I didn't know how any of this worked. I thought about calling the police. But insurance fraud was complex. White-collar crime. Would they even take me seriously? Especially against my own family? I decided to wait until Monday. I'd find a lawyer. I'd figure out the right way to handle this. I'd confront them properly, with legal backing. I didn't realize it then, but waiting was the worst decision I could have made, because my family already knew I knew, and they weren't going to wait for me to build a case. They were already moving to destroy me. Sunday morning, I drove back to Denver alone. Marcus wanted to stay another day, but I couldn't. I needed to get home, think clearly, figure out my next move. The whole drive, I rehearsed what I'd say. I'd confront Dad first, give him a chance to explain. Maybe there was something I was missing, some reason for all this that made sense. But I knew there wasn't. I reached my apartment building around 6 a.m. The streets were quiet, that peaceful Sunday dawn stillness. I parked in my usual spot and grabbed my ski gear from the trunk. That's when I saw the police cars. 2 of them, parked right in front of my building. My stomach clenched. My first thought was that someone in the building had been robbed or hurt. My second thought, the one that made my hands go cold, was that this was about me. My landlord, Gary, stood outside, talking to two officers. He saw me approaching, and his face did something complicated, sympathy and discomfort mixed together. The officers turned. One of them, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Felix Warren?" "That's me," I said, my heart hammering. "What's going on?" "We need to talk to you about a harassment complaint," she said. Her voice was professional, but not unkind. "Can we speak inside?" "Harassment?" "I don't. I haven't harassed anyone. Your brother, Brandon Warren, filed a report yesterday," the other officer said. "He was younger, maybe late 20s. He claims you've been sending him threatening messages for the past 2 weeks. Unwanted contact. Stalking behavior." I felt the ground tilt. "That's not true. I haven't. We barely talk." The female officer, her badge, said Martinez, pulled out a tablet. She showed me screenshots of text messages, horrible messages. Violent, angry, threatening. They were all from my phone number, sent to Brandon's number. Messages saying I'd ruin his engagement, destroy his happiness, make him pay. Messages that escalated from angry to genuinely frightening. "I've never sent these," I said, my voice shaking. "Someone's faking them. Spoofing my number, or... I don't know how, but that's not me." Officer Martinez nodded slowly. "I understand this is upsetting, but your brother has filed for a restraining order. The hearing is tomorrow, but given the nature of these threats, he's requested emergency protection." The younger officer handed me papers. A temporary restraining order. I had to stay at least 200 yards from Brandon, Amanda, and their immediate families. I couldn't attend the engagement party. If I violated it, I'd be arrested immediately. I tried to explain about the insurance fraud, the forged documents, the whole mess. But even as I talked, I could hear how it sounded. Like excuses. Like conspiracy theories from someone who was already being accused of harassment. Martinez was sympathetic but firm. "This sounds like a civil matter," she said. "The fraud allegations, the family business disputes, that's separate from the harassment complaint. You need to get a lawyer for both issues. But right now, you have to comply with this order. Do you understand?" I understood. I understood that my family had moved faster than I had. While I was sleeping in a ski lodge, they were building a case against me. They'd somehow faked those messages, created evidence, and filed legal papers to keep me away. After the officers left, I went inside and immediately checked my phone records online. The messages to Brandon didn't show up in my actual sent folder. They'd been sent through some other method, maybe a cloning app or a spoofing service. But proving that would take time and money. I called Mom. Straight to voicemail. I called Dad. The same. I even called Aunt Patricia, who'd always been close to me, who used to say I was her favorite nephew. She answered. "Felix." Her voice was cold. "I was expecting your call." "Aunt Patricia, what's happening? Those messages aren't from me. Someone's setting me up." She sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment. "Brandon warned us this might happen. He said you'd been acting strange lately, making wild accusations. He thought you might have a breakdown." "A breakdown?" "I'm not. He showed us the messages, Felix. We've all seen them. And he told us you've been jealous of him for years. Since we helped him get clean. Since he got engaged. Since he's been successful. He said you couldn't handle seeing him happy. None of that is true. I helped him get clean. I was the one who was there for him when everyone else gave up." Patricia's voice dropped lower, almost gentle. "I know you believe that. But your father told us about some concerning behavior from when you were younger. Incidents we didn't know about. How you'd manipulate situations, play the victim, turn people against each other." "What incidents?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "The time you accused Brandon of stealing your college fund money. You made a huge scene, but it turned out you'd spent it yourself and forgotten. The time you told everyone Dad was having an affair when he was just working late on a business deal. You've always had a tendency to create drama when you feel left out." I was silent, my mind reeling. Those things had never happened. Not the way she was describing them. The college fund thing, Brandon had stolen $500 and I'd confronted him privately and he'd paid it back. The affair thing, that had never happened at all. They'd rewritten history, taken real moments and twisted them. created a narrative where I was unstable, jealous, manipulative, and they'd been feeding it to the family for months, maybe longer. Patricia, I said, my voice breaking slightly, they're lying to you. All of them. Ask yourself why I wasn't invited to Brandon's engagement party. Why would they exclude me if I'm family? She hesitated for just a moment. Then she said, because you're not well, Felix. We had a family meeting 6 months ago. We all agreed that bringing you into the business would be risky right now. You're unpredictable. We love you, but we need to protect the family assets from poor decisions. A family meeting. 6 months ago. They'd voted on my future without me there. They decided I was the problem, the risk, the weak link. And Brandon had convinced them. Brandon, the addict I'd saved. Brandon, the brother I'd sacrificed for. I have to go, Patricia said. But please, Felix, get help. See someone. We all want you to be okay. She hung up. I sat in my apartment, the restraining order papers on my coffee table, and felt the walls closing in. Then my phone buzzed with an email. It was from HR at Shepherd Development Group, my employer. Dear Felix Warren, the email began. Due to corporate restructuring and budget considerations, your position has been eliminated effective immediately. You will receive 2 weeks severance pay and information about COBRA insurance benefits. Please return all company property by end of business tomorrow. I'd been fired. From a job I'd held for 4 years, where I was their best performer. The timing was impossible to ignore. Victor Shepherd, Amanda's father, owned the company. He'd fired me. I checked my bank account next. A sick feeling in my stomach. The joint account I shared with Dad for family business purposes, the one that held my inheritance money from Grandpa, $60,000 in trust, was closed. The balance showed 0. Transfer initiated by primary account holder, the note said. They'd taken everything. My family standing, my job, my inheritance money. They'd built a legal case painting me as mentally unstable. And I had a restraining order keeping me from getting anywhere near them. My phone buzzed again. It was Rachel, my girlfriend of 8 months. She was a yoga instructor at a studio near downtown. She taught Amanda's regular Wednesday class, which was how we'd ended up dating. We need to talk, her text said. I'm coming over. She arrived 20 minutes later. I could tell from her face that this wasn't going to be good. Rachel sat on my couch, her hands twisted in her lap. She wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I was at the engagement party yesterday, she said quietly. Your mom talked to me. She's really worried about you. Rachel, whatever they told you. She held up her hand. They told me you've been struggling. That you've been jealous of Brandon. That you've been sending horrible messages. Felix, I saw the messages. Amanda showed me. Those aren't from me. Someone faked them. And your mom told me other things. About patterns from your past. About behavior she's concerned about. She said you've always had trouble when other people succeed. That you make yourself the victim. None of that is true. I was starting to sound desperate, even to myself. They're lying because I found out about fraud they committed. Insurance fraud, forged documents, all of it. Rachel closed her eyes. That's what your mom said you'd say. She said you've been building conspiracy theories, seeing plots where there aren't any. She said it started a few months ago and has been getting worse. I stared at her. They'd gotten to her. They'd spent months, maybe, laying groundwork, telling people I was unstable, creating a narrative. So when I finally discovered the truth and tried to expose them, no one would believe me. I can't be with someone who's going through this, Rachel said, standing up. I'm sorry. I care about you, but this is too much. You need professional help, and I can't be the one to give it to you. She left, taking her spare key with her. I sat alone in my apartment as Sunday afternoon turned to evening. I'd lost my family, my job, my girlfriend, my money, and my credibility. Brandon's engagement party had happened without me, and they'd won every single round so far. But I still had the evidence on my laptop. I still had the screenshots, the documents, the proof. Tomorrow I'd find a lawyer. I'd start fighting back properly. I didn't know yet that it was about to get so much worse. Monday morning, I woke to find my Instagram account was gone. Not just locked, completely deleted. I tried to log in and got an error message. Account not found. All my photos, including the ski selfie that started everything, were gone. I checked Facebook. My account was locked due to a violation of community standards. Someone had reported me for impersonation, which made no sense. I was impersonating myself? My digital presence was being erased. I had a 10 o'clock meeting with a lawyer Marcus had recommended, Gary Brennan. His office was in a modest building downtown. Gary was in his 50s, with kind eyes and a rumpled suit. He listened to my whole story, reviewing the documents I'd printed out, the screenshots I'd saved. After an hour, he leaned back in his chair. "This is solid evidence of forgery," he said. "The signatures on these dates, paired with your medical records showing you were in surgery, that's provable fraud. The insurance claim with your false witness statement, that's serious." But, he paused, and I knew there was bad news coming. Proving it and prosecuting it are two different things. This will be expensive and time-consuming. I'd need a retainer of $10,000 just to start. We're talking depositions, expert witnesses, document analysis. Could take a year or more. "I don't have $10,000? I said quietly. "They took my inheritance money. I just lost my job." Gary nodded sympathetically. "I understand. There are options, payment plans maybe. But Felix, you need to know this is going to be an uphill battle. Your family will hire expensive lawyers. They'll fight every step. And they've already established a narrative that you're unstable. What should I do? File a police report about the theft of your inheritance funds. That's straightforward theft. Document everything. Keep records. And be very careful about any contact with your family. That restraining order is real. If you violate it, you'll be arrested, and that'll make you look even worse." I left Gary's office feeling more hopeless than when I'd arrived. I filed the police report about the stolen $60,000, but the officer who took my statement seemed skeptical. "It's from a joint account? And your father was the primary holder?" "That's complicated, sir." "Might be civil, not criminal." Everything was complicated. Everything was civil, not criminal. Everything was he said, she said. That afternoon, things got worse. Brandon's lawyers served me with a lawsuit, not just the restraining order, but a formal harassment suit. They were suing me for $200,000 in damages for emotional distress, claiming my threatening messages had caused severe psychological harm to Brandon and Amanda. The lawsuit was filed in the legal notices section of the Denver Post. My name was now publicly associated with harassment and stalking. Anyone who searched for me online would find it. I applied to 3 competing development companies that afternoon, places I'd considered working before. All 3 rejected me within hours. I didn't understand how they could review my application so fast. Then one HR manager, someone I'd known professionally, called me privately. "Felix, I shouldn't be telling you this," she said, her voice low. "But Victor Shepard reached out to several companies in the industry. He's made it clear that hiring you would be problematic for business relationships. I'm sorry. You're good at what you do, but nobody wants to cross Victor. I'd been blacklisted, in my own industry, by my ex-girlfriend's father. I sat in a coffee shop that evening, my laptop open, searching for any kind of work. Anything. I had $47 in my checking account. Rent was due in 2 weeks. I had new job, new family support, new safety net. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Felix Warren?" a woman's voice said. "This is Special Agent Sandra Morrison with the FBI. I need to speak with you about the Grand Vista Resort insurance claim." My heart jumped. The FBI. Finally, someone who could help. "I'm cooperating fully," I said immediately. "I have evidence that my father committed insurance fraud. I can send you everything." There was a pause. "Mr. Warren, I need you to come to our field office tomorrow at 9, and I should advise you that you're currently a person of interest in this investigation." "What? No, I'm not. I'm the one reporting the fraud. Someone sent us an anonymous tip 3 days ago, claiming you orchestrated the insurance fraud and are now attempting to frame your family after they discovered your scheme. The tip included documents that, frankly, are concerning." "That's insane. The documents are forged. My signatures are forged. I can prove it, and we'll look into that." "But Mr. Warren," The evidence currently suggests you had access to family business accounts, you have signatures on fraudulent documents, and you've recently turned against your family after they, quote, discovered irregularities. I need you to come in and answer questions. She gave me an address and hung up. I sat there, my coffee going cold. They'd reported me to the FBI. They'd framed me for the crime they'd committed. And somehow they'd made it convincing enough that a federal agent thought I was the criminal. That evening, Marcus called. Felix, Jennifer is really uncomfortable with you staying here much longer. She's worried about the allegations. She has the kids to think about. Marcus, you know me. You know I didn't do any of this. I know, man. But Jennifer doesn't know you like I do. And with the lawsuit, the restraining order, the FBI thing, it's a lot. I'm sorry. I told him I understood. I did understand. People had to protect themselves, their families. I was radioactive now. Anyone who associated with me risked contamination. I checked my email. My landlord had sent a 30-day notice to vacate. The building was owned by a holding company that, after some research, I discovered was connected to Victor Shepard's development empire. They were evicting me. In less than a week, I'd lost everything. My family, my job, my girlfriend, my home, my reputation. I was about to be homeless with $47 to my name. I was being sued for $200,000 I didn't have. The FBI suspected me of federal crimes. And the people who'd actually committed those crimes were at home, celebrating, planning a wedding, living the life they'd stolen from me. I thought about leaving Denver, just getting in my car and driving somewhere else, starting over. But running would make me look guilty, and I didn't have gas money to get far anyway. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number, but this time a text message. I know what they did to you. I have proof. Meet me tomorrow. Don't tell anyone. It was signed with initials. A.S. Amanda Shepard. I stared at that text message for 10 minutes straight, trying to decide if it was another trap. But what did I have to lose? I was already destroyed. If this made things worse, how much worse could they get? I texted back. When and where? The response came immediately. Rocky Mountain Coffee on Larimer. Tomorrow at 2. Come alone. The next morning I went to my FBI meeting first. Agent Morrison was professional and thorough, asking me to walk through my entire relationship with the family business, every signature, every document. I explained everything, showed her my hospital records proving I couldn't have signed the notarized documents. She listened, took notes, but I couldn't read her expression. At the end she said, "We'll investigate all of this, Mr. Warren. But I have to tell you, the timeline of events makes you look suspicious. Turning against your family right after the anonymous tip came in about your involvement, that's problematic. Because they're framing me. I didn't send any anonymous tip. They did, making it look like I'm trying to cover my tracks. That's possible, she acknowledged. We'll look into it. But this will take time. Don't leave Denver. We may have more questions. I left the federal building feeling like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. At 2 o'clock, I walked into Rocky Mountain Coffee. It was busy, the lunch crowd still lingering. I spotted Amanda immediately. She sat in a back corner booth, wearing sunglasses inside and a baseball cap pulled low. She looked nervous. I slid into the booth across from her. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. I can't marry him, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't be part of this. Amanda, why are you? She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was a screenshot of an email chain between Brandon and my father. The subject line was, "The Felix Problem." My stomach clenched as I read. They discussed forging my signatures, timing it with my known schedule. They joked about how trusting I was, how easy it would be. I found these 3 weeks ago, Amanda said. I was looking for something else on Brandon's laptop and stumbled across a folder. There's so much more. Insurance documents showing the real damage assessment, the one that proves the fire wasn't a total loss. Emails between Brandon and my dad planning the whole partnership. Bank transfers showing how they moved money through shell companies. Text messages where Brandon and your dad laugh about destroying you. She slid a flash drive across the table. Everything's on here. Audio recordings too. I recorded Brandon talking to your dad last week about how you'll probably kill yourself when the FBI charges you. They were laughing about it. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice hoarse. You're engaged to him. Amanda pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. I thought I loved him. I really did. But I've watched what he's doing to you. I've seen how much he enjoys it. He's cruel, Felix. He's genuinely cruel. And I realized, if he can do this to his own brother, what would he do to me? She explained that she'd been having doubts for weeks. Little things that didn't add up. Brandon's stories about their relationship timeline didn't match her memories. His explanations for various business decisions seemed rehearsed. And then she'd found the files. But there was more. Amanda's hands shook as she told me the rest. Yesterday, I found out about the prenup. My dad drafted it without showing me. Brandon's supposed to sign it today. If I marry him, Brandon and your dad get control of my trust fund, $30 million. The Grand Vista development needs a major cash infusion for the expansion phase, and my money is it. I felt sick. So this whole thing, I'm being used just like you were, Amanda said bitterly. Your dad embezzled from family accounts. The fire was meant to cover it up and generate insurance money. But the insurance money wasn't enough for what he wanted to do. So he brought in my dad as a partner and arranged for me to marry Brandon so they could access my trust. I'm not a fiancé. I'm a bank account. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it and her face went white. It's Brandon. He's asking where I am. I was supposed to be at my dad's office 20 minutes ago for the prenup signing. Amanda, don't sign it. I won't, she said firmly. But we have to move fast. If they realize I've turned against them, they'll destroy this evidence. My dad has connections, Felix. Serious connections. He'll make this disappear. We need to go to the FBI right now, I said. Agent Morrison, she's investigating. We give her this evidence. She has to act. Amanda nodded. We drove separately to the FBI field office, Amanda following me. I called ahead, and Agent Morrison agreed to see us immediately. In Morrison's office, we laid it all out. The flash drive, the documents, the recordings. Morrison spent an hour reviewing everything, her expression getting grimmer. Finally, she looked up. This is solid evidence of fraud, forgery, and likely money laundering. I can move for arrest on the insurance fraud immediately. But there's a complication. Of course there is, I muttered. Victor Shepard is already under investigation by this office for unrelated financial crimes, Morrison said. We've been building that case for 8 months. If we arrest your father and Brandon now, it could alert Victor and cause him to destroy evidence in the larger case. I need you both to hold off on going public for 2 weeks. Let us coordinate with the other investigation. 2 weeks? Amanda's voice rose. The prenup signing is today. If I don't sign, they'll know something's wrong. Can you stall? Morrison asked. Pretend you're sick? Delay the signing? For how long? A day? 2? My dad isn't stupid. Neither is Brandon. They'll figure it out. Morrison looked between us. I understand the difficult position this puts you in, but if we move too fast on the smaller case, we lose the bigger one. Victor Shepard has defrauded dozens of people. We're talking hundreds of millions in damages. I need you to trust the process. I wanted to argue, but what could I say? The FBI had priorities. Amanda and I weren't them. We left the federal building without a clear plan. Amanda was panicking. I can't go home. I can't face them. What if I slip up? What if they can tell? We stood in the parking lot, trying to figure out our next move. That's when 3 cars pulled up fast, blocking us in. My father stepped out of one, Brandon out of another, and Victor Shepard. Amanda's father out of the third. With them were 2 men I didn't recognize, both large and unfriendly looking. My heart sank. They'd been tracking Amanda's phone. They knew everything. Victor walked straight to Amanda and grabbed her arm. Not violently, but firmly. Time to go home, sweetheart. You've had a confusing day. Amanda tried to pull away. Dad, let go. Brandon walked up to me, his hand out. Give me the flash drive, Felix. And anything else Amanda gave you? I don't have it, I lied. I gave it to the FBI. My father stepped closer. He was shorter than me, but in that moment he seemed huge. His voice was quiet and cold. Listen carefully, Felix. You're going to walk away from this. Right now. You're going to forget about Amanda, forget about the resort, forget about all of it. If you don't, I will have you arrested for extortion. For harassment. For fraud. I have a dozen witnesses ready to testify about your mental instability. I have documents with your forged signature that'll put you in prison. Those signatures are forged by you, I said. Prove it. He smiled. Without Amanda's testimony, without her evidence, you've got nothing but conspiracy theories from a mentally ill man who's been harassing his family. Amanda was crying now, trying to pull free from her father's grip. Felix, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Victor pulled her toward his car. Brandon moved closer to me, crowding into my space. Last chance, brother. The flash drive. I don't have it, I repeated. But I did. It was in my pocket. If they searched me, they'd find it. Then, you're going to have a very bad time, Brandon said softly. The two large men, Victor's hired muscle, moved toward us. One grabbed Raymond by the shoulders. Wait, why Raymond? He wasn't even here. Actually, just then, a car pulled up. Uncle Raymond stepped out. His face was pale, but determined. I got Felix's message, Raymond said. His voice shook, but he stood his ground. I'm here to testify about the arson, about all of it. My father's expression went from cold to furious. Raymond, get back in your car. Now. No, Raymond said. I'm done. I've been part of this too long. Felix is right. You're right. All of it is right. And I'm not going to let you destroy him the way you've destroyed everything else Dad built. Brandon lunged at me, grabbing for my pocket where the flash drive was. I shoved him back. He swung at me, a wild punch that caught me on the cheek. I hit him back, adrenaline overriding any sense. We crashed into the side of my car, grappling. One of Victor's men grabbed Raymond, trying to drag him away. Raymond fought back, surprisingly fierce for a man in his 50s. Amanda broke free from her father and ran toward the FBI building, screaming for help. It was chaos. Ugly, desperate chaos. No movie choreography, just panicked fighting in a parking lot. I managed to knee Brandon hard and break free. Raymond yanked away from Victor's man. We ran for my car. I started the engine, Raymond dove in the passenger side, and I floored it, leaving Brandon and my father and Victor shouting in the parking lot. I drove for 20 minutes before I felt safe enough to stop. We ended up in a random grocery store parking lot in a suburb. Both of us were breathing hard. My face hurt where Brandon had hit me. Raymond had a split lip. I still have the flash drive, I said, pulling it from my pocket. And I have the recording of your father confessing to the arson, Raymond said, showing me his phone. He told me about it a year ago when he was drunk. Thought it was funny how he'd pulled it off. I recorded him. I've been keeping it as insurance in case he ever turned on me. We have to go back to the FBI, I said. Right now. Before Victor makes all this disappear. We tried calling Agent Morrison. She didn't answer. We tried again. Finally, she called back. Mr. Warren, what happened? Amanda Shepard ran into our building screaming. She's hysterical. I explained everything in rapid fire. The confrontation, the violence, Raymond's testimony, the arson recording. There was a long silence. Then Morrison said something that made my blood run cold. Mr. Warren, I can't act on this right now. Victor Shepard was tipped off about our larger investigation approximately 2 hours ago. He's currently destroying evidence at his main office. Federal prosecutors are in emergency meetings. If I pull resources to deal with your family matter, we lose coordination on the bigger case. I need you to lay low for 48 hours. 48 hours? They just attacked us in your parking lot. They're dangerous. I understand, and I'm sorry. But my hands are tied. The best I can do is suggest you find somewhere safe and wait. We'll move on the arson and insurance fraud as soon as we can coordinate with the larger case. She hung up. Raymond and I sat in my car, both of us bruised and bleeding, holding evidence that could send my father and brother to prison, but the FBI wouldn't act. We couldn't go to Amanda because she was probably being held by her father. We couldn't go to regular police because Morrison had told them this was a federal matter. We were on our own. My laptop was in my back seat. Brandon had grabbed it during the fight. I'd lost the backup of all the evidence Amanda had given me. We had the flash drive and Raymond's recording, but we'd lost additional documentation. We're not safe, Raymond said quietly. Victor Shepard doesn't play games. If he thinks we're a threat, he'll do something about it. We need to disappear for 2 days. Somewhere they can't find us. Where? I asked. I have $47. No credit cards that aren't maxed out. No safe house. I have a friend with a cabin in Wyoming, Raymond said. Off-grid place. We can hide there. But even as he said it, I knew hiding wasn't the answer. We needed to go public, create too much noise for Victor to silence us. The FBI wouldn't help. Regular police couldn't. We needed media attention. Lots of it. Fast. Then I remembered something. My grandfather's best friend, Walter Hayes. He'd been an investigative journalist for the Denver Post for 30 years before retiring 5 years ago. He'd loved Grandpa, had spoken at his funeral about integrity and honesty. I had his number somewhere in my old contacts. I found it and called. It rang 6 times before a gruff voice answered. Walter Hayes. Mr. Hayes, this is Felix Warren. Tom Warren was my grandfather. There was a pause. Felix? I remember you. You were just a kid at Tom's funeral. What can I do for you? I need help, I said, and I need it tonight. Walter Hayes lived in Boulder, about 40 minutes from Denver. Raymond and I drove there in my beat-up sedan, checking constantly to make sure we weren't being followed. It was nearly midnight when we pulled up to his modest ranch-style house. Walter answered the door in a bathrobe, his white hair standing up in tufts. He was 72, retired for 5 years, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He studied us, taking in our bruised faces and desperate expressions. You better come in, he said. We sat at his kitchen table while his wife, Dorothy, made coffee. Walter listened as I laid out the entire story, starting from the beginning. The inheritance promise, the fire, the insurance fraud, the forged signatures, Brandon's engagement as a business merger, Amanda's evidence, the FBI's refusal to act, the violence in the parking lot. Raymond added his testimony about the arson, about being complicit, about finally deciding to come forward. When we finished, it was nearly 2 a.m. Walter had filled 3 pages of a legal pad with notes. He'd asked sharp questions, probing for inconsistencies, testing our story the way a good journalist does. Finally, he sat back. This is the biggest story I've seen in 20 years, he said. And I believe you, every word. Relief flooded through me. Someone believed us. But I'm retired, Walter continued. The Post won't take an article from me on something this big. I can refer you to someone there, but it'll take time. They'll want to verify everything, talk to their lawyers. Could be weeks before they publish. We don't have weeks, I said. Victor Shepard knows we're planning to expose him. He'll destroy evidence, disappear assets, maybe worse. Walter nodded slowly. Then we use my podcast. Your podcast? I started a true crime and corruption podcast 2 years ago. Nothing fancy. Just me talking into a microphone about Colorado politics and business crimes. But I've got 40,000 subscribers. People who listen, who care about this stuff. I can publish an episode tonight, have it live by dawn. Once it's out there, it's out there. Can't be taken down or suppressed. Will anyone pay attention? I asked. No offense, but 40,000 people. It's enough to start the fire, Walter said. I'll send it to every journalist I know at the Post, the local news stations, the TV networks. Once one picks it up, they'll all jump on it. This has everything. Family betrayal, insurance fraud, arson, a wealthy developer, a romantic engagement. That's really a business scam. The media will eat this up. How long will it take? Raymond asked. If we work fast, I can have a rough cut done by 6 a.m. We record your statements. I write the narrative. We include the audio evidence, reference the documents. It won't be polished, but it'll be thorough. And it'll be public. We got to work. Walter set up microphones in his home office, a converted bedroom with walls covered in books about Colorado history and journalism awards from his career. He recorded me first, asking questions, letting me tell the story in my own words. Then Raymond, who admitted his complicity but explained his change of heart. We played the arson recording, my father's drunken confession to Raymond. Walter listened to it twice, his expression grim. This is gold, he said. Not in a good way, but evidentially. This is a confession to a felony. We went through the documents on the flash drive, Walter selecting the most damning ones, the ones that told the clearest story, the forged signatures, the false insurance claim, the emails planning to steal my inheritance. The The bank transfers. The text where Brandon and my father laughed about destroying me. By 5 in the morning, we had 4 hours of recorded material. Walter sent us to get some sleep on his couch while he edited. I couldn't sleep, just dozed in fits, jumping at every sound. At 6:30, Walter emerged from his office. "It's done," he said. 72 minutes long. I've titled it Grand Vista Resort, A Family's Fraud. I'm uploading it now. We watched as he published the episode to his podcast hosting platform. Then he shared it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. He sent links to 30 journalist contacts with a message. "This is real, verified, and explosive. Call me." "Now we wait," Walter said. The first response came within 20 minutes. A reporter at the Denver Post called Walter, wanting to verify details. Then a local TV news producer called. Then another journalist. By 8 in the morning, Walter's phone was ringing constantly. The story was spreading. At 9:15, my phone rang. Agent Morrison. "Mr. Warren, what did you do?" Her voice was tight with controlled anger. "I went public," I said. "You told me to wait 48 hours. I couldn't. You just compromised a federal investigation." Victor Shepard's lawyers are already calling our office, claiming harassment, conspiracy. You've given them ammunition to fight the charges. Then arrest him before he can use it, I said. You have evidence now. Raymond's testimony, the documents, everything. The story is public. Half of Denver knows about the fraud. You can't bury this anymore. There was a long pause. Then Morrison said, "The arson recording changes things. That's a federal crime with no statute of limitations. I can't ignore it. We're executing search warrants within the hour." "Thank you," I said. "Don't thank me yet," Morrison replied. "This is going to get messy." She was right. By noon, federal agents had raided my father's house, Brandon's apartment, and Victor Shepard's office. All three were arrested. The charges were extensive. Insurance fraud, arson, conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, forgery, wire fraud. More charges would follow as the investigation deepened. The local news ran the story at noon and 5 and 6 and 10. The Denver Post published a full article by afternoon, crediting Walter's podcast and conducting their own interviews. Walter was suddenly famous again, the retired journalist who broke the biggest story of the year. My phone exploded with calls, reporters wanting interviews, old friends reaching out, apologizing for doubting me. Even Marcus called, his voice thick with emotion, saying he should have believed me, should have stood by me. Amanda called too. She was safe, staying with an aunt in Colorado Springs, away from her father. The engagement was off. She'd given a full statement to the FBI. She thanked me for saving her from a marriage that would have destroyed her life. The restraining order against me was dropped. Brandon's harassment lawsuit was withdrawn. My former employer called, apologizing, offering my job back with a promotion and 6 months back pay. I told them I'd think about it. But the best call came from Gary Brennan, the lawyer. The court had frozen all assets related to Grand Vista. My inheritance claim was being reinstated. With the evidence of fraud and forgery, I would almost certainly recover everything stolen from me, plus damages. He estimated I could receive between $2 and $3 million once everything was settled. The family was destroyed. My mother called, sobbing, saying she didn't know about most of it, that my father had lied to her for years. She wanted to see me. I told her I needed time. Maybe eventually, but not now. Aunt Patricia called, her voice small and ashamed. She apologized for believing the lies about me. I accepted her apology, but told her our relationship would never be the same. Uncle Raymond and I remained close. He pleaded guilty to his role in the fraud, cooperating fully with prosecutors. Because of his testimony and cooperation, he received 2 years probation instead of prison time. His relationship with his daughter Jessica was strained, but healing. His first grandchild was born 2 months later, and Raymond sent me a picture. "She's beautiful," his text said. "I want to be worthy of her." The trial took place 6 months later. I testified for 3 days, walking the jury through everything. The betrayal, the forgery, the systematic destruction of my life. Amanda testified too. Powerful and articulate, exposing her father's crimes. The verdicts were unanimous. My father was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Brandon got 8 years. Victor Shepard received 20 years for his larger pattern of corruption that extended far beyond just Grand Vista. All three faced millions in fines and restitution orders. Grand Vista was sold at auction to a legitimate resort management company. After legal fees and restitution, I received $1.7 million. I used some of it to pay back Marcus for his friendship when I had nothing. I used more to donate to organizations helping families affected by fraud. And I used the rest to start my own development company, one focused on affordable housing and transparent business practices. I hired Marcus as my partner. We called the company Warren and Associates, but everyone knew the associates mattered more than the name. Amanda and I remained friends, bonded by trauma, but never romantic. She used part of her trust fund to start a nonprofit, helping young women escape financial abuse and coercive relationships. We occasionally collaborated on projects, her nonprofit and my company, working together on housing for abuse survivors. Raymond became a regular in my life again. Not like before, but something real. He'd earned his way back through honesty and genuine change. A year after everything, I received an invitation. Grand Vista Resort, under new ownership, was having a grand reopening ceremony. They wanted me there as a guest of honor, the man who'd exposed the corruption and saved the resort from becoming a monument to fraud. I went. I stood on the same deck where I'd taken that ski selfie, the one that accidentally exposed everything. The mountains looked the same, eternal and indifferent to human drama. I took another selfie, genuinely happy this time, and posted it with the caption, "Sometimes you have to burn down the lies to rebuild the truth." Walter Hayes called me that evening. He was recording a follow-up podcast episode about whistleblowers and wanted to interview me. I agreed. My story wasn't about being excluded from a party anymore. It was about finding the courage to expose truth when everyone wanted you to stay silent. I thought about Grandpa often, about his promise that I'd be brought into the business to keep them honest. In a way, I had. Just not the way anyone expected. I'd lost a family built on blood, but I'd gained one built on truth. I'd lost everything that didn't matter and found what did. The inheritance Grandpa really left me wasn't money or property. It was integrity. And nobody could take that away. Standing on that mountain, looking at the resort that almost destroyed me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because I'd won, though I had, but because I'd learned that my worth wasn't determined by who accepted me or who excluded me. It was determined by the principles I refused to compromise. Sometimes the things that seem like disasters are exactly what needed to happen. That accidental photo, that moment of exclusion, that betrayal, it all led me here. To understanding who I really was. To building something honest. To becoming the man Grandpa believed I could be. And that was worth more than any resort, any inheritance, any family approval. That was everything. So, let me ask you something. Because I think about this a lot now. Have you ever been excluded from something you deserved to be part of? Maybe a family event? A work opportunity? A moment that should have been yours? How did you handle it? Did you fight back? Walk away? Or find another path entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And if this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt betrayed by people you trusted or had to fight for the truth when everyone told you to stay quiet, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more stories about resilience, justice, and never giving up. And share this with someone who needs to hear that sometimes losing everything is just making room for what actually matters. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was long, but I wanted you to understand the whole journey, from that phone call 3 days before the party to standing here a year later, rebuilt and stronger. Remember, your worth isn't determined by who includes you. It's determined by what you stand for, when standing costs you everything. Take care of yourselves out there, and never stop fighting for the truth.